The vast expanse of the galaxy stretched out in front of the Council's chambers, a never-ending sea of stars and worlds far beyond Earth's comprehension. In a room on the highest level of the Galactic Command Center, the leaders of the Council gathered, their thoughts focused on a singular, troubling matter: Earth. The once thriving planet, once home to a determined and fierce species, had now been all but forgotten. Over centuries, Earth had become a distant memory in the galaxy's collective consciousness. The galaxy had moved on. Civilizations grew, empires rose and fell, and new species emerged with astonishing technology. The humans of Earth, however, had remained silent. Their cries for help, their desperate attempts to make contact, had gone unheard. Their planet, a once vibrant cradle of life, was now a mere speck in the corner of the galaxy, a forgotten world. At least, that's what the Council had hoped. Seated at the head of the long metallic table was Skalran, the ancient leader of the Council, his features sharp and his eyes reflecting the vast wisdom of millennia. His species, the Zyran, had lived through wars that spanned entire galaxies, and they had seen many civilizations rise and fall. But humanity had been different. They were stubborn, resilient, and had somehow survived the destruction of their homeworld. For a time, the Zyrans had hoped that the humans would fade quietly into the void, their desperate pleas silenced by the vast emptiness of space. But now, something had changed. It seems Earth has once again made its presence known, Zalran said, his voice cutting through the quiet room, carrying an undertone of something deeper, perhaps concern or curiosity. It was rare for him to show any emotion, but the recent reports had shaken him. In the dark corners of the chamber, several other council members shifted uncomfortably. The Elvian race, tall and silver-skinned, exchanged glances with the Drakari, their reptilian eyes filled with unreadable intent. The tension in the room was palpable. The Varric, a towering species known for their fiery red skin and unmatched strength, was the first to speak. His voice was as thunderous as his frame. "Is this another trick?" Another desperate cry from a dying world, hoping to be noticed. His sharp gaze flickered to the holographic screen in the center of the room, which displayed a recent transmission from Earth, a message so powerful, so unusual that it had reached the Council's attention. "Perhaps we should ignore them once again." "No, this is different," Zalran interjected sharply. "These signals, they are not just faint cries. They are coordinated, precise." The Zyran leader leaned forward, his voice low but intense. "They are intelligent. They know what they are doing." The room fell silent. The Elvian, the Drakari, and the Varric looked to one another, unsure of how to respond. None of them had expected Earth to make any noise in the galaxy. Not after centuries of silence. There had been no contact, no attempts at communication. Just the cold, empty void where once humanity had flourished. It was as though Earth had vanished from the map of the universe, relegated to nothing more than a distant memory. The humans should have faded into oblivion. The Drakari murmured. They were weak. After what happened to their planet, they were nothing. Zalran raised a hand, signaling for silence. His ancient eyes focused on the holographic display once more. The humans have never been like other species. They are survivors. They learn, they adapt, and they never forget. The room was quiet for a long moment as the members of the council mulled over his words. The Elvian, their slender forms glowing faintly, were the first to speak. What do we do then? If they have truly returned, what are their intentions? Will they bring peace, or will they seek vengeance for the destruction of their planet? Zalran didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the display, as though considering every possibility. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's future resting on the decision they were about to make. If they acted too hastily, they could provoke humanity into an all-out war. If they did nothing, the humans might grow even more powerful, far beyond what they could predict. The last time Earth had fought back, it had taken a toll on the galaxy, but the humans had managed to survive. They had learned from the past, and now they were sending a message that they were not going to fade quietly. "The signal is too strong to ignore," Zalrin finally said. "We must investigate, send a fleet to Earth, and find out what is really happening." "But what if this is a trap?" the Varric growled. "What if it is a ploy to bring us into a false sense of security before they strike?" Zalrin's sharp gaze turned to the Varric. "If this is a trap, then we will deal with it as we have always done. But if they are truly reaching out, we cannot afford to ignore them again." For a moment, no one spoke. It was clear that the Council had underestimated humanity in the past, and now they were faced with a choice that would determine the future of their galaxy. The Elvians spoke again, their voice calm and logical. "If we send a fleet, it must be done with care. We cannot risk provoking them unnecessarily. If they are truly prepared to fight, we must be strategic." Zalrin nodded slowly. "I agree. We will send a reconnaissance mission first, but we must also send a message, a clear one, that the Council is watching." The Council members fell into discussion, debating the best course of action. Should they send a peaceful envoy, or should they prepare for a battle? The signals they had received were too cryptic, too unclear to be sure. However, one thing was certain: Earth was no longer the forgotten, weak planet it once was. Something had changed, and the humans were ready to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. Meanwhile, far beyond the Council's chambers, on the surface of Earth, things were already set in motion. Captain Ilara, the leader of the Silent Armada, a covered human fleet hidden for centuries in the shadows of Earth's solar system, received the signal. It was time. For years, humanity had been rebuilding. They had not forgotten the destruction of their home, but they had learned to survive, to adapt, and to fight. Hidden in the dark corners of space, the Silent Armada had quietly grown, its ships brimming with advanced technology, weapons, and knowledge scavenged from the wreckage of ancient alien civilizations. Earth was not the weak, defenseless planet it had once been. It was a world of silent power, biding its time, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ilara stood in front of the holographic display, watching as the Council debated Earth's fate. Her face was unreadable, but her mind was sharp. She knew what was coming. The Council would send their fleet, but it would be too late. Earth was already prepared. "The galaxy will remember Earth," she whispered under her breath, her voice filled with determination. "And they will regret ever forgetting us." As the Council decided their next move, Ilara's hand moved toward the communication console, ready to send a signal, a message that would be heard across the galaxy. It would be Earth's first real communication in centuries, but it would be the last warning the galaxy would ever get. The humans were coming back, and this time, they weren't going to be ignored. The transmission began, sending waves of energy across the galaxy, cutting through space like a sharp blade. The message was simple, yet powerful. Earth is not dead, and we are not forgotten. It was a declaration of survival. And the galaxy would soon find out just how dangerous it was to underestimate the humans. The stars flickered outside the large windows of the Council chamber, but inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The debate over Earth's future continued, but now, the decision had already been made. A fleet would be dispatched to investigate, to uncover what the humans were planning. The signals from Earth had been too strange, too powerful to ignore any longer. "Prepare the fleet," Zalrin ordered. His voice, calm but firm, echoed through the room. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, knowing full well the risks of dealing with a planet that had once been written off as insignificant. But this was different. The humans were back, and the galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before. The Zyran leader turned his attention to the holographic display, which was now filled with schematics of the fleet that would be sent to Earth. They were powerful ships, each armed with advanced weaponry and defenses capable of withstanding the most dangerous threats in the galaxy. But even so, there was something unsettling about this mission. Earth had been silent for so long, And now, when they finally decided to speak, it was with a force that no one had anticipated. At the far end of the table, the Varric clenched his fists, his red skin glowing with barely contained fury. What if the Elvian, tall and silver-skinned, nodded in agreement. Caution is key. We cannot afford to misstep. If we push too hard, we risk a full-scale war. Their species, known for their wisdom and grace, always preferred peace over conflict. But even they could see that the humans, long underestimated, were no longer the weak species they had once been. The council fell into silence as the fleet began to mobilize. News of the upcoming mission spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The message from Earth had already reached distant worlds, and some races, once hostile to humanity, began to question their old assumptions. Was Earth truly dead, or had they been wrong all along? Far from the Council's gaze, deep in Earth's orbit, a quiet and determined force was preparing for something far more significant. The Silent Armada was ready. Captain Ilara, standing in front of a vast console aboard her flagship, watched as the final preparations were made. The fleet, now more powerful than anyone could have imagined, had spent years in the shadows, hidden in asteroid fields, orbiting distant moons, and buried beneath the surface of planets. They had been waiting. And now, Earth's time had come. Her fingers hovered over the controls as she looked at the communications display. The message had been sent, the declaration of humanity's return to the galaxy. But that was only the beginning. Ilara knew what the humans were capable of. Earth had not simply been building a fleet for defense. They had been preparing for something more. The Silent Armada was made up of ships that were not only advanced in technology, but also in tactics. Earth had learned from its mistakes in the past, and this time, they weren't going to be caught off guard. Ilara's eyes narrowed as she watched the response from the Council's fleet approaching. Their ships were powerful, yes, but they were also predictable. The humans had learned to operate in the shadows, moving with stealth and precision. "Captain," a voice crackled through the intercom. It was Commander Egan, Ilara's second-in-command. "We're ready to launch. The fleet is in position, and all systems are operational." Ilara nodded, her expression cold but determined. "Activate the cloaking systems. We won't make our move until we're ready." As the final orders were given, the human fleet slipped quietly into the dark void of space, invisible to the approaching alien forces. Their ships were designed to blend seamlessly into the background, leaving no trace, no hint of their presence. The Council's fleet, unaware of the Silent Armada's movement, continued on their course toward Earth. They believed they were the ones in control, the ones with the advantage. But they were wrong. Back in the Council chamber, Sauron was studying the final reports of the fleet's progress. The journey to Earth was not a short one, and it would take time for the ships to arrive. Time the humans did not intend. The Alliance of the Forgotten would be their first step in uniting the galaxy against the Council. Earth was not alone anymore. Ilara knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy would either bow to humanity's will or be swept away in the storm they were about to create. As the Council's fleet neared Earth, the crew on board felt a strange sense of unease. They were prepared for any contingency, but what they didn't know was that Earth had already prepared for them. The human fleet was silent, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Council was not the only force in the galaxy anymore, and they would soon learn that Earth was not the helpless, forgotten world it had once been. The stage was set for the galaxy's most unexpected showdown. The humans were not merely fighting for their survival. They were fighting to make sure the galaxy never forgot them again. The Council's fleet moved silently through space, its massive ships cutting through the void with terrifying precision. The stars around them were nothing more than distant points of light, each a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the danger of underestimating a world once thought to be insignificant. The officers aboard the fleet's command vessel watched the screens with rapt attention, waiting for any sign of movement from Earth. They were closing in, their mission simple: to assess the situation, and, if necessary, neutralize the threat. But the humans of Earth were anything but predictable. In the heart of the fleet, a young officer named Lena stared at the holographic display. The Earth signals had stopped abruptly several days ago, just as the fleet had begun its journey. It was a strange silence, one that made her uneasy. Lena had read all the reports, heard all the stories. The humans were resilient, but could they truly be a threat now? The Council thought they were a forgotten species, one that had no place in the galaxy anymore. And yet there was something different about this time. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she knew something was wrong. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime, signaling an incoming message. The voice that crackled through the intercom was familiar, yet distant. It was Admiral Corrin, the leader of the fleet, the one tasked with bringing humanity back into line. "Officer Lena," Admiral Corrin's voice was cold, devoid of emotion. "Report. What do you see?" Lena hesitated, her fingers hovering over the console. "Admiral, it's strange. I've detected nothing unusual, but I feel something. There's an energy in the air, something that doesn't feel right." There was a long pause on the other end. Then Corrin spoke again, his tone sharp. "You're overthinking this. We're here to do our job, not to second-guess the mission. Focus on your scans. Earth is silent. They are weak." But Lena's instincts were telling her otherwise. She had seen it in the way the humans had communicated in the past. Always indirect, always cautious. If they were preparing something, it was not going to be a typical attack. Earth wasn't like the other conquered worlds the Council had dealt with. Earth was different. She had heard the stories of their past, of a species that fought with determination, that rose from the ashes when all seemed lost. She had heard of the Silent Armada, the fleet that had stayed hidden in the shadows for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. Her mind raced. The silence could mean anything. It could be the calm before the storm, or it could be a trick, designed to lull them into a false sense of security. The Council had made a mistake in underestimating Earth once, and Lena feared they were about to make that same mistake again. Meanwhile, far away from the Council's fleet, deep within the dark expanse of space, the Silent Armada prepared for its next move. Captain Ilara stood at the command center of her flagship, the Eclipse, her eyes locked onto the distant glow of Earth. She had waited for this moment for so long that it felt surreal to finally see it come to fruition. After years of building, learning, and surviving, humanity was finally ready to reclaim its place in the galaxy. The fleet was positioned on the far side of the moon, cloaked and silent. Earth's resources had been drained over the years by those who had forgotten them, but humanity had learned to adapt, to turn their disadvantages into advantages. The Silent Armada was a testament to their ingenuity, their ability to survive even when the odds were stacked against them. "Captain," Commander Egan's voice interrupted her thoughts, his face appearing on the holographic display. "We're ready. The fleet is in position. The systems are fully operational. It's time to make our move." Ilara's gaze never wavered from the glowing Earth below. She knew the Council was coming, but they were too late. Humanity had already prepared. The Silent Armada was more than just a fleet of ships. It was a statement. It was a promise to the galaxy that Earth was not dead. The humans had survived. They had thrived. And now they were coming for what was rightfully theirs. "Understood," Ilara replied, her voice cold and steady. "Let's make our presence known." With a single command, the fleet activated its cloaking systems, slipping further into the shadow of Earth's moon. The Silent Armada, once hidden, was now ready to reveal itself. Every ship in the fleet hummed with energy, ready for whatever lay ahead. As they moved into position, Ilara's mind raced. The Council would not expect them to strike now, but there was something else that had been weighing on her, something that made her even more determined to act. The alien artifact, an ancient relic discovered on Earth's moon, had begun to respond in ways they hadn't anticipated. The energy it emitted had been growing steadily for weeks, and Ilara knew that it held untold power. It could be humanity's greatest weapon, or their greatest downfall. The humans had spent years studying the artifact, unlocking its secrets. They had learned that it wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a key to something far larger than they had imagined. But it was unstable, dangerous, and untested. Yet, in the face of the Council's incoming fleet, Ilara had no choice but to use it. She trusted her people, and she trusted herself. "This is it," Ilara muttered under her breath. "We either make our mark today, or we fade into the past forever." Back aboard the Council's flagship, Lena could feel the tension building. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something big. She watched as the ships of the fleet continued their journey toward Earth. The planets and moons in the distance grew larger on the holographic screens, but it wasn't the approaching planets that held her attention. It was the silence, the unnatural quiet that seemed to surround them. The Admiral's voice broke through the silence. "Report, Officer Lena. What do you see?" She hesitated for a moment before responding. "Admiral, I'm detecting a strange energy signature near Earth. It's unlike anything I've seen before." "What do you mean, officer?" Corin's voice was laced with impatience. "It's coming from Earth's moon," Lena replied. "It's a power surge. It's growing stronger." Corin's voice turned cold. "We've had enough of these reports. We're on a mission, and we will not be deterred. Proceed with the plan." Lena bit her lip, fighting the urge to argue. The Council had made its decision, and she had no choice but to follow orders. But in the pit of her stomach, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. As the fleet continued its approach, the energy from the moon began to pulse, stronger and stronger. The ships in the fleet began to experience strange malfunctions, systems flickering, engines stalling, and communications jamming. It was happening faster than Lena could comprehend. Then, without warning, the moon erupted with a brilliant burst of light. The energy that had been building for weeks was unleashed, a wave of power that surged through space like a shockwave. The fleet's systems crashed, their weapon systems locked in place, and the once certain mission now seemed to hang in the balance. "Report," Corin shouted. Lena's hands flew over the console as she tried to regain control of the ship. "Admiral, the energy is too much. The systems. We're losing control." And then, as the wave of energy continued to spread outward, a chilling thought crossed Lena's mind. Earth was no longer the weak planet they had once assumed. Something had changed. Something had awoken. In the distance, the silent armada watched as the chaos unfolded. Ilara's lips curled into a slight smile. "We've made our move," she said quietly. "And now, the galaxy will know we are not to be ignored." The battle had begun. And the Council would soon learn that the humans of Earth were no longer the silent ones. The sudden burst of energy from Earth's moon had left the Council's fleet in chaos. On board the flagship, the crew scrambled to regain control, but every effort was met with failure. Systems that were once running smoothly had now become erratic, and the once silent void of space was filled with the hum of malfunctioning equipment. Lena's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. "Admiral, we need to fall back," Lena pleaded, her voice shaky. "The energy is unlike anything we've ever encountered. We can't proceed with the mission like this." Admiral Corin's face, usually stern and unmoved, twisted with frustration. His eyes narrowed, scanning the screens in front of him. His mind, however, was calculating the best course of action. He knew retreat was not an option. The Council had made its decision. Earth would be brought to heel, no matter what. "Not yet, officer. We press forward," Corin barked. His voice, although strained, remained firm. "We've come too far to back down now. We will not be intimidated by a mere power surge." Lena tried to speak again, but Corin raised a hand to silence her. Instead, he turned to the tactical officer standing at the side, a being of gray scales and sharp features. "Set the fleet's course for Earth. Full speed ahead. Prepare for whatever lies ahead." The officer gave a curt nod, but as the commands were issued, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the Admiral was blind to the danger they were now facing. The energy coming from the moon was not just a random phenomenon. It was purposeful. Earth had planned this. Earth was ready for them. Meanwhile, far beyond the chaos of the Council's fleet, Ilara stood poised in the heart of the silent armada, watching as her ships continued to remain hidden, cloaked by the dark. Every ship, every vessel in the fleet, was a marvel of human ingenuity, designed not just for battle, but for survival. The silent armada had been waiting for this moment, a moment where humanity would rise once again. They were not here for conquest. They were here to make the galaxy remember who the humans were. Ilara's eyes scanned the shimmering screens in front of her. They had triggered the artifact, the ancient relic that had long been buried on Earth's moon. The Council would never have anticipated this power, this weapon hidden in plain sight. The artifact was something far more dangerous than a mere piece of technology. It was a key to an untapped well of energy that humans had now learned to control. And this energy was not just going to make them strong. It was going to give them the power to reshape the galaxy. Ilara, Commander Egan's voice came over the intercom, snapping her out of her thoughts. The Council's fleet is not responding well. We've successfully disrupted their systems, and they are disoriented. It's our moment. Ilara didn't reply immediately. Instead, she observed the situation unfolding. The Council was struggling. They were not ready for this kind of fight, this kind of power. Her lips curved into a small but satisfied smile. The humans had been underestimated for too long. No more. It's time, she said simply. With a flick of her fingers, the orders were issued. The cloaking systems of the silent armada disengaged, and one by one, the ships came into view, massive, sleek vessels that cut through space like shadows, moving with grace and purpose. The fleet of Earth was no longer hiding. They were no longer the silent ones. They were ready to send a message. Back in the Council's fleet, the situation had deteriorated rapidly. The systems had only gotten worse. The waves of energy from the artifact on Earth's moon had crippled their ships' communications and weapons. The fleet was disoriented, and in the black void of space, a sense of panic had begun to spread among the officers. Admiral, we've lost contact with the forward fleet. The enemy ships are no longer in stealth mode, Lena reported, her voice trembling. They're out there somewhere. They've revealed themselves. Corin's eyes narrowed, his fingers flying over the console in front of him. Where are they? He muttered under his breath. The once confident commander was now visibly rattled. His eyes flicked across the screens as if trying to anticipate the enemy's next move. The ships of the silent armada had emerged from the shadows, but they didn't immediately engage. Instead, they simply hovered at a distance, their presence a looming threat, like a storm on the horizon. The message was clear. Humanity was not intimidated. They were not here to negotiate. They were here to remind the galaxy of their strength. Lena watched in horror as the human fleet began to organize itself into formation, its ships gliding through space with precision. Every vessel was positioned with military efficiency, as if they had been preparing for this day for years. She had heard the rumors, the whispers of Earth's technological advancements, but seeing it firsthand was a different matter. The humans had not just survived. They had thrived. And now, they were ready to fight. Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the space around them. A powerful pulse of energy shot toward the Council's fleet, barely missing the flagship but sending shockwaves through the fleet. Systems began to short-circuit, alarms blared, and the crew scrambled to regain control. What was that? Corin demanded, his voice cracking with the first sign of panic. What is that power? It's coming from the humans, Admiral, Lena replied, her voice filled with awe. They're using the artifact. They've weaponized it. Corin's face hardened as he realized the magnitude of what was happening. The humans had not just uncovered the power hidden on their moon. They had learned to control it. And now, They were wielding it against the very fleet sent to subjugate them. The power surged again, and this time, the shockwave struck the flagship directly. The ship shuddered violently, its systems flickering and failing. The crew aboard struggled to keep control, but it was clear. The battle had shifted. "Pull back now," Corin screamed, his voice filled with frustration. "We cannot win this fight. Retreat." But it was too late. The silent armada, now fully visible, began to encircle the Council's fleet. Each ship was a silent predator, waiting for its moment to strike. The humans had made their move, and there would be no turning back. Lina's hands flew across the console, trying desperately to override the failing systems. But the power was too much. The energy coming from the moon continued to surge, growing stronger with each passing second. Her eyes flicked to the view screen, where Earth's fleet moved in like a storm cloud, casting a shadow over everything. The Council's fleet was trapped, and as the ships of the silent Armada closed in, Ilara stood on the bridge of the eclipse, watching the scene unfold. She spoke calmly, her voice a quiet reflection of the chaos surrounding them. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The Council thought they could control the galaxy. They thought they could control us. But humanity will never be silenced again." The vast emptiness of space felt oddly suffocating as the Council's fleet, now disoriented and battered, tried to recover from the shockwaves sent by Earth's newly revealed fleet. The hum of failing systems, the flickering of lights, and the deafening alarm sirens painted a picture of chaos. It was not just a physical war that was unfolding, it was the destruction of assumptions. The galaxy's largest and most powerful force was struggling against a foe that had once been considered weak and forgotten. On board the flagship of the Council, Admiral Corin paced the command deck, his mind racing. He had been prepared for many things, but this was beyond anything the Council had anticipated. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were asserting their presence in the galaxy. The power they were wielding was unlike anything he had ever encountered. "Status report," Corin barked, his voice strained, his fingers gripped tightly around the armrest of his command chair. Lina, the young officer who had first felt the unease, was at her post, scanning the consoles. "Admiral, we've lost 2 of our forward vessels completely. The energy surge from Earth's moon is continuing to disrupt our systems. We are vulnerable." The coldness in Corin's eyes intensified. "I know that, officer. What is our next move?" Lina hesitated. She had always trusted the Admiral's judgment, but now she couldn't shake the growing feeling that retreat was their only option. The Council's might, its fleet, its resources, meant nothing in the face of the power humanity was now unleashing. We need to regroup, Admiral," she suggested cautiously. "We've underestimated Earth's capabilities. If we press forward like this, we risk losing the entire fleet." Corin's expression hardened, his pride stinging at the suggestion. He had led countless missions with success, and the idea of retreating now, in the face of a species they had long deemed inferior, was unacceptable. "Regroup," he muttered under his breath. "We cannot retreat. The galaxy will never respect us again. This is a matter of power, and we will show them that the Council is not weak." But deep down, even Corin knew that the situation was dire. The silent Armada was not just a show of force, it was a statement. Humanity was not only capable of defending their homeworld, they were capable of reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. Elsewhere, aboard the Eclipse, Ilara stood at the bridge, her eyes sharp as she surveyed the unfolding chaos. The energy from Earth's moon, which had been building for weeks, was now fully unleashed, and the Council's fleet was struggling to regain control. Her fleet, though vastly outnumbered, was in the perfect position. "Ilara, we've done it." Commander Egan's voice crackled through the intercom, his tone tinged with awe. "The Council is in disarray. Their ships are scattered. This is our moment." Ilara's lips curved into a small smile. She had waited for this moment her entire life, the moment when humanity would rise to its rightful place among the stars. They had spent years in the shadows, building the Silent Armada, studying alien technologies, preparing for a day like this. But it wasn't just the ships or the weaponry that made them dangerous. It was their will to survive, their unbreakable spirit. "We've waited for this day," Ilara said, her voice cold and measured. "Now we remind them what humanity is capable of." Her eyes flicked to the screen where the Council's fleet was struggling to regroup. They were panicking, trying to restore their systems, but it was clear that their confidence was faltering. They had underestimated Earth once, and now they were paying the price. The galaxy had never seen humanity's full potential, and Ilara intended to make sure the Council never forgot it. She issued the order, and the Silent Armada moved in, surrounding the weakened Council ships. The humans didn't fire immediately. Instead, they positioned themselves strategically, sending a clear message. This wasn't just about victory. This was about reshaping the galaxy's understanding of humanity. "Prepare for Phase 2, Ilara commanded. Back in the heart of the Council's fleet, the officers were beginning to lose their composure. They had been in countless battles, seen wars that had left entire worlds in ruins, but they had never faced an enemy like this. The human fleet wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to make the galaxy remember them, to make the galaxy recognize their strength. "Admiral, we're being flanked," Lena reported, her voice strained with disbelief. "Their ships are surrounding us. There's nowhere to go." Corin's gaze flicked to the holographic displays in front of him. He could see the fleet closing in, the ships of the Silent Armada moving with unnerving precision. They were not just attacking. They were asserting dominance. "Damn it," Corin muttered, slamming his fist into the armrest. "We cannot be beaten like this." For the first time, the Admiral felt the weight of the situation, of everything that had led to this point. The Council had always assumed that power would protect them, that their fleets, their technology, would be enough to crush any opposition, but humanity had proven them wrong. And now, they were on the brink of a defeat that would echo through the galaxy for centuries. But there was still one thing the Admiral had left: pride. He wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. "Prepare the weapons," he ordered. "We fight back. We'll show them that we are still the galaxy's dominant force." Lena turned her head sharply toward him. "Admiral, their technology, those ships, those weapons, they're unlike anything we've encountered. We can't fight them head-on, not with these conditions." But Corin was resolute. "We don't have a choice, officer. We either fight or we perish here." On the bridge of the Eclipse, Ilara watched as the Council's fleet prepared to retaliate. It was a desperate move, one born of pride and fear. She knew they wouldn't give up without a fight, but she also knew they were outmatched. The Silent Armada had the advantage of both superior technology and sheer willpower. The humans had been underdogs for so long, it was almost poetic that they would now be the ones to stand tall in the face of a galaxy that had once ignored them. "Ilara," Commander Egan spoke, his voice steady, but filled with anticipation. "The Council is mobilizing. They've launched countermeasures." Ilara's expression didn't change. "Let them. It will only delay the inevitable." With a single gesture, she issued the final command. The ships of the Silent Armada surged forward, unleashing a barrage of energy that pierced through the Council's defenses. Their shields faltered, their weapons fired in vain, and within moments, the first few ships of the Council's fleet were disabled, their systems frozen in place. The battle had begun, and the balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. The Council had thought themselves untouchable, but they had underestimated Earth. They had underestimated humanity's will to fight, to rise from the ashes of their past, and to remind the galaxy who they were. As the Silent Armada moved in for the final strike, the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity was no longer a forgotten species.